In Kenya, some careers still come with an unwritten rule about who they are for. Across the country, a generation of creatives is ignoring this by building careers in fields they were told were never meant for them. This is Flip the Script, and these are their stories.
This episode was powered by CC Hub in partnership with Africa No Filter.
I want to catch you off guard and make you move a bit more, dance a bit more, move a certain way during when you listen to this song, move a certain when you listen to another song. So it's an experience, I think. Anytime anyone is interacting with anything that I have come in contact with musically, I feel like should be an experience. It's a crazy space, and a lot of big artists have been here, both local and international. So to imagine that this small girl who used to make beats in her bedroom is now in a space like this is just crazy. It's intimidating.
Abby, day one, act one, scene one, take one, action.
Hi, my name is Abby, and I'm a music producer and DJ based in Nairobi, Kenya. I'm a firstborn daughter, but I do have a younger sister, maybe 4.5, 5 years younger than me. I've been brought up in a single parent sort of household. So as a result, we've really moved around a lot with my mom, when she's gotten different opportunities in different parts of the country. We've been fortunate enough to live everywhere from Kericho to Mombasa to, here Nairobi, even at the river, we've lived a little bit of everywhere. And yeah, I think all of those nitty gritty bits of my childhood, I think, have played a big role in where I am today. So when I was younger, I think I was the very bubbly, very curious, asked a lot of questions, wouldn't be shy to speak her mind, um, wants to try out a lot of things, wants to learn why things are the way they are, why things work in the way they do. And I think for the most part, I was bubbly. The only period which I think I stopped being so bubbly, or where my personality kind of dampened a bit, was actually funny thing during the season of the post-election violence. I remember I was about the light-skinned person in that school at the time. And if I'm not wrong, I was the only Kamba in the school. And there was a lot of tribalism going on at the time. And I actually faced some bullying during that period. And actually, for a really long time, I would really hate when people would refer to me as light skin. And imagine I was even lighter than I am right now. Like then I was. And yeah, I really struggled. And I think during that period, I just kind of withdrew for a bit. I don't know whether this is my earliest, but it's one of the earliest childhood memories, I'd say. Actually, we were in Sotik. I think it must have been around the time we had just moved there. So I was like 5 or 4, thereabout. And we were in the kitchen and we were just baking. It was around the time I think we were learning how to bake eggless cakes, because my birthday was coming up. And it was just a good time. My sister was somewhere screaming. She was probably 6 months or so. Yeah, I think that's one of my early childhood memories. I was just sat on a countertop watching my mom. My work was tasting to see if it has enough sugar, not enough sugar. Tell her what to add more sprinkles, add some this, add some that. Um, yeah, I think I'd say that's one of my very early childhood memories with my mom in particular. So my relationship with my mom, I would say, has gone through seasons. When I was young, it was just good. Good in that my mom has always really worked hard to ensure that we don't feel like there was an empty set of shoes. And so she's really tried as much as possible to fill in both spaces, which, I'll always applaud her for. Being a single parent, it's not an easy thing. And so, yeah, I'd say our relationship was good. I could always tell her things. Also, you can imagine, by virtue of the fact that we moved around a lot, we also had a lot of house helps. So me, I was those kids who had a phone really young. I mean, like, I remember being the age of like 3, and my work was just press the green button twice, because that's the last person you called. So when you press it twice, it'll just dial the number that it had previously called. So yeah, I think my mom and I were really attached to each other, most especially when we were young, because if I'm not wrong, for the first like year or 2 after I was born, she wasn't working. I think maybe a year or so. So we grew like really, really fond of each other, and we were glued to the hip. And now by the time she started now going back to work, and I was left with house helps, do one small thing, I'm calling my mom. It's over for you. It's over for you. So yeah, I think our relationship was good. She would also always really listen to me. So sometimes when I tell her I was struggling in school with this or that, I would say my mom was not those parents who are quick to believe the other side of the story before they heard mine. She would always, if my child said this, then she said this. Because I remember, like in the school we were in Sotik, I had really struggled with the beating. Was a lot. Was a lot. I'd be looking purple for I don't know how many days after, because of the color of my skin. And so I remember there was a time, I think I didn't do too well in an exam. I remember it was math. It was math, and the pass mark was 80, and I think I got 72. And I remember the teacher's method or way of going about things was you'd be beaten. The amount of canes you'd get was how far you were from the pass mark. And I mean, this guy would use all the strength in his body, and I was even smaller than I am now, as you can imagine. So I remember telling my mom, like, Mama, I really can't go to school. I mean, it was to the point where I am really allergic to eggs, and I even almost threatened I could even eat an egg. I'm not going to school tomorrow. I don't care what you're gonna say, but I'm just not going. So like, not even in a moment like that, I feel like another parent may have just been like, that's life. You have, pambana na hali yako or whatever they would have said. But for me, she was just like, no, in fact, enough is enough. I think she even called the school the next day, and she was just like, yeah, she's not coming back. And the next time I moved to another school, we moved now to Kericho. And now at this point, she didn't even get a new job in Kericho. She just did a commute of like an hour and a half for us to be in a better school at the time. Hi guys, this is Mamzi. This is my amazing mom. They say she looks like my sister, but you guys are hyping her up too much, too much. But yes, this is my amazing mom.
Abby has always loved music. And I remember the first time we ever got an instrument, we'd gone to Tuskys, and she was trying to reach out to a guitar. And I wasn't so happy because, you see, if it falls and breaks, that means we have to pay for it. And it actually fell, and she got
I was even showing them the scar on my head.
a scar on her head. And that's when I bought her first guitar, which wasn't really a guitar, a child guitar. She was about 8. Yes, she was 8. That's when I bought her first guitar. Then later on, when she was about 11, 12, she wanted to learn how to play drums. So every time we went to church, she'd go next to the guy who plays drum and learn and try and learn. And in the house, the sufurias, you'd find them. Then we lived in Mombasa, you'd find them all set
Scattered in the living room.
In the living room, so that she could learn how to play.
Containers.
And even containers, yes. So that she can get different sounds. And the lead for the sufuria. That's how she started learning. She's very passionate about the production. And I see her being one of the greatest producers in Kenya. And in the world, yeah, in the world too, yes.
To work with some of the artists.
Yes, and I pray one day she can do music production for Christian music as well. Christian music, and also DJing Christian songs. That's my prayer. That's my prayer. Yeah.
When Abby was young, did you guys listen to a lot of Christian music in the home?
Yes.
Especially because of me being also in
church, because she was
Serving.
involved. Yeah, she was serving in church. She was serving in Mavuno Young and Fearless. No.
Yeah, that's now what the youth church is called.
Yeah, the youth, yeah, Mavuno, yeah.
Yeah.
We listened to that, and also she went to a Christian school. Yeah,
Mhm.
they both went to a Christian school, yes.
No, but even apart from Christian music, like music that we'd enjoy together, so we used to listen to Kina Seal and Kina Who. When
Yeah,
they'd ask me,
yes,
how
the
do I
old
know
school,
them?
yes, the
Because, you
old
know, I
school, yes,
enjoy
yes.
a lot of 80s and 90s
80s,
music.
yeah. 80s and 90s music, yeah. It's all music, yeah.
Off. I gotta start again. It's a very beautiful Sauti Soul song called Coming Home. Very, very lovely. When it comes to career, when I was young, I think I had a few voices here and there of should be a great lawyer like your mom. You know, you're really smart. You're great at making arguments. You'd make a great lawyer. And you know, I was like, yeah, I mean, I guess my mom looks like she's doing well for herself. She likes what she does. Why not, kind of thing. But music was always still somewhere at the back of my head. And so even for me now, the more I started witnessing success in these things that I was investing time and effort in, the more I realized that I'm actually good at this thing and maybe I need to be more serious about it. And the fact that it didn't feel like work to me. Like I remember people in school would be like, they don't understand. You're in school every day by force. Then you're going to take yourself to church for 3/4 of the day on Saturday. Then on Sunday you'll still be there for another 3/4 of the day. Then Monday you have to start the cycle again. And for me, I didn't understand what the big deal was because this was something that I was passionate about, and this was something that I like genuinely I enjoyed doing. I remember even the times when we'd have a family function or something and I couldn't go to church. Trust me, I was not amused with my mom. I really wasn't amused because I'm just thinking now someone else is going to be playing the drums on Sunday. That was supposed to be me. Slowly but surely, the more time I dedicated into it, the more instruments I learned, the more affirmations I got now from all these successes of convention and whatnot. The more I realized that this needs to be something I now need to start taking seriously. So now that's when I now started doing things like now the ABRSMs and whatnot. I started now looking at uni applications. So at the time I was looking at going to uni in the UK. The course I had settled on was music performance and production. At the time, there was nothing that was locally available that felt in line with what I wanted to do, because even the whatever was available then music related was history of music and whatnot. And I'm sorry, it's a no from me. Nothing too much of the production, and even whatever was available production wise, I even remember was more like short courses. So just certificates or diplomas of some sorts. And to me, it didn't feel like they were coming from people who had like real and actual experience. It just felt like it could have just been tutorials on how to use the software, and there's the University of YouTube for that. So I don't know. I personally, I didn't take what was available, locally available, seriously. So I had now started speaking to my parents at the time about these outside options, and they were open to them at first. During the last few years of my teenagehood, my dad was around, and for him, he's more of like business minded kind of guy. Go study business because he was also a businessman kind of thing. And I thought about it, and I think I'm fortunate enough to say I think I'm one of those people who, as long as I put my mind to something, I can make it work, whether or not I'll be happy with it. Like if I really decide I'm gonna try and make this thing work, I am relentless, if I can put it that way. I feel like I had never been angry before, but this was the time when now a lot of difficult feelings. It became like scratching a wound that I didn't know I had, kind of thing. So yeah, I'd put it that way. 2018, 2019, my dad got involved in a really bad car accident. And as a result of the accident, because of the financial strain, physical, emotional, just the strain that the situation was, I think it meant that now my dream had to be on pause for a minute, and that was a really tough thing for me to come to terms with, because this had felt like I had been working so hard towards a goal, towards a dream, and then the rug was pulled right from underneath me when I least expected it. He was driving back home and he got into a head-on collision with a lorry. He had a lot of broken bones, I mean, like skull fractures, lost a lot of blood. The accident was so bad to the extent that they had to call like fire brigade guys to come and break the doors open to get him out, because that's how much like the metal and everything like had just um, uh, gotten damaged, like just by virtue of the accident. The engine was even on fire. Like it was really, really graphic, like what you see in movies, man, for lack of a better word. Yeah. Even thinking about that time just makes my heart feel a bit heavy. So the pivot to psychology, I think, was from a POV of, I think I just went back and started looking at what are some of the topics that I'm usually interested in out of what is usually available in school. And I have always thought the human brain is very fascinating, like how it works, understanding the psychology of decision making. I think as I was talking about my childhood earlier, I explained I was those children of asking a lot of whys. I mean, like all the whys, like why is so and so like this, why is so and so like that, but how come so and so? Like I've always been a very inquisitive child, and I guess just the way my brain is wired is I love to understand things. I don't like when I can't understand something. So around 2022, that was around the time I had finished like my coursework and whatnot, and now I was gearing up for my internship. And let me tell you, even finding an internship spot like for psychology was a headache. I even went to like rehabilitation centers in like Kikuyu to go and try and find like um, just spots to go and work. And it's not even that we needed a paid internship or anything. The opportunities were just scarce. I didn't manage to finish my internship before whatever deadline they had, and so I wasn't able to graduate that year. And my graduation ended up being pushed to the next year. But one of my auntie's friends actually now ended up having some sort of like rehabilitation center, and so that's where I was working in 2022. I think maybe around the time for elections. A friend I made at this place where I did my internship. Her name is Kushali, and Kushali at the time was doing her internship for her master's. Now, as I was doing mine for my undergrad. And so we just became really good friends. We hit it off. We got along like really, really well. And so when we weren't able to find jobs, because we were really job hunting together, and she was just like, why don't we just start our own practice? Like we've tried everything there is. So, I mean, at that point, I was like, why not? What else am I doing? I didn't have anything I was doing during the day, because now my master's classes were from 5 p.m. onwards. We officially now started KMB Mental Health Services on January of 2023. In 2023, Karun had released a new song called Lie to Me. And she had tried something new. I think people mostly like know her, for being like an R&B sort of artist, and here she had pivoted a bit, and now she did something along the styles of like a really soulful piano kind of style. And so what she did, I think part of her promotion strategy for the song was to release a challenge where producers could come on board. Because I feel like artists do a lot of challenges for other artists to come, add a verse to it or whatever, but you don't really see it too much like on the production side. And Karun, who's also a producer, wanted to, I guess, just do a little something for us as producers. And so she had a challenge, and they released the stems out, and they were like, yeah, people are free to do the challenge and just make it their own, and tag her. and she was reposting like now the content that people were doing on the song. And so for me at this point, I was like, wow, it's been a long time since I did like a fun video. Let me just do it like for the plot. It's been a long time since I did a content piece. And so in fact, I think I must have submitted my, I can't even say I submitted my entry really to the challenge. More like I posted my video on the challenge like even 3 weeks after it was out. I must have been amongst the last people who did it. And again, for me, it was just a matter of I just need a new content piece out. It's been a while. People are gonna forget about me. And so yeah, I worked on the song and I did like a really fun edit of it, and it did really, really well online. And so it made it easier for her to see it by virtue of the fact that she was already following me. Like she didn't need too many people to tag her in it because she was following me and she saw it and she reposted it. And yeah, she said it was actually one of the ones she really, really enjoyed. And that was that. I had a lot of hype from a lot of people, a lot of industry producers and artists, and even people from certain labels. Even I think I said following me at the time, and the clout was a lot. It was a lot. It was a lot, and it's really unfortunate. But in this industry of ours, people only rate you when you have clout. Like being good or being talented sometimes doesn't matter, which is really unfortunate. And then out of nowhere, I remember this one morning I wake up, and some of those people who sleep with my Wi-Fi off so I don't get notifications. Then when I wake up, I turn them on. I turn them on and I see like 7 DMs from Karun, and I'm like reading it to even confirm that like it's her actual username and not someone who's impersonating her or whatever. I even go to the page to verify that it's hers. And she was reaching out and she was like, yeah, hi Abby, man, we really, really enjoyed your remix, and we were hoping that your remix could be one of the ones that goes onto the EP. And at this point, I'm panicking. I'm like, girl, I didn't work at you on the song from beginning to the end. I only worked on a certain portion of it. You see, that was the thing about like my content pieces at the time. They didn't need to be like fully fledged out beats. It was just like something really fun and really catchy for like a period of 45 seconds to a minute, because again, people's attentions are terrible. And now for me, I was creating content. I was not creating a song. And so I just had to be honest with her. I was like, girl, I don't have a whole song. I have a certain section. And she was like, okay, how soon do you think you can get a whole song done? I was like, damn, okay. So where do we move from here? So I think she had reached out on a Monday. I told her, give me until Thursday. I'll try and have something sent out to you by Thursday. I brought my life to a standstill at this point. I don't remember too many other things I was doing. I just remember I stopped everything, and day and night it was what I was working on. Overthinking. My imposter syndrome was at an all-time high. A few months later, the song came out. It did really well. Again, there was more buzz, and now I could go around now name dropping. Yeah, I've even done so and so with artist XYZ, and for like, hey, okay, sour. And again, this also brought some more clout again, which I really hate that this industry works that way. But yeah, a lot of people now who are rating me and seeing my potential. And you meet people and they're like, yeah, you're so cool. Definitely, I've seen your videos online. We should exchange numbers. Let's get to the studio on Tuesday. The studio sessions don't happen. Things are always coming up. I'm in the middle of this, I'm in the middle of that. But yeah, the buzz died down after a couple of months, when maybe even I'd say a month and a half or a month after Like to Me came out. So during Q1, end of Q1 or beginning of Q2 of 2024, my colleague Kushali brought it up to me, and she was like, so Abby, I actually want to pursue further studies and I want to move to Australia. And that's going to eat up a lot of time, and I'm not going to have the capacity to help you out with KMB. So you're going to have to like steer the ship solo. And so she was like, yeah, that's where we are at. And hey, this one was I was shocked, to say the least. I was like, my goodness, now what now? And I think the reason for why I was feeling this way was KMB felt like, I'm looking for an analogy to use. KMB felt like Kushali's baby, and I felt like a step parent. I've gotten into this marriage, and I'm helping take care of someone's baby and someone's dream. And not to say that I don't love this baby and this dream. I really love the baby, and I want to help this baby get to the biggest level that they can possible. But now you see, offering support was something I was willing to do when we started out. But now we had gotten to a juncture where now she was asking me, now I need you to go ahead and foster my baby like fully. And I wasn't sure whether this was something I was ready to commit to at this time. And I think the reason for this was maybe just again at the back of my head, me knowing the real love of my life and my real baby's music, who I had abandoned. So I think now it was also during that season that I lost a lot of friends. Unfortunately, there was just a lot going on, and it was a very isolating season, if I can put it that way. And I was just feeling really sad and really low. And as a result, I chose to turn back to the one place that I always found comfort in, my safe haven, which was producing again. And so I started producing at this point. This was what, May, June, July of 2024. Yeah, somewhere there, Q2, Q3 of 2024. And so, I started getting into production. And early in the year, beginning of the year, there's a friend of mine who unfortunately isn't in my life anymore. But she had planted the idea in my head that I would make a really good DJ. Every time we'd have house parties, like within the friend group and whatnot, she was always like, Abby has to be on Ox. Abby has to be on Ox. Abby just knows how to get the vibes going or whatever. So shout out to you wherever you are. At this point, I think I'd also now started thinking about, why don't I just learn how to DJ for fun, and maybe it could just be something I do like at house parties with my friends and whatnot. And so I had intentions of buying decks at this point, but life was just lifing. Every time I'd save up the money for it, something would come up and would need the money for that. So I was just like, even this DJing thing, clearly even that one doesn't want me. I left it alone. And so at this time, I'm still producing. Now at this point, I'm trying to, after the whole Karun thing played out, and how beautiful that was and how much traction that gave me, I got following from a lot of artists and producers in the space. So like now it was during this season that now I was trying to take advantage of the fact that they know me, and hopefully, they'd be more willing to collaborate and work. And a lot of them, it was, yeah, we'll plan. I'll get back to you kind of thing. Then 20 September of 2024, was it September? Or I think beginning of October of 2024, I got a message on Instagram, and basically one of the owners of 1824 was trying to have me go and DJ at his club. He reached out. We spoke with him over a call, and you know how when you get an opportunity, and even though you may not necessarily have all the skills required, like sometimes you'll tell a little white lie here and there just to get the opportunity and tell yourself, I learn on the go. But for this one, this wasn't something I could I could pull off, not having given myself the time to learn or practice. So I was just honest with him, and I told him, I appreciate you reaching out. This is so thoughtful, but really and truly, I don't know how to DJ. I don't. And he was like, yeah, I know you don't know how to DJ. I've seen your production videos. I really like what you do. And I want to give you a chance to come and learn how to DJ. I'll give you 2 weeks. If you can figure out how to DJ in those 2 weeks, you'll perform for me, live here at the club. And if you do well, you get a job. And now it was at this point that my life came to a standstill. So I still had a few clients that I was seeing, with KMV. And so I started like phasing them out slowly, or decreasing how often the sessions would happen, because now you'd find the decks were available for me to use from around 4 p.m. up until 7, because now 7 is when the first DJ would come in to start using them. So like 3 to 4 days a week, I'd go there in the afternoon, and likely also have to be there at night now to watch other DJs as they're playing, because you also a lot of observational learning now will take place in that case. And I practiced and practiced like a dog. My goodness, there was a point like I think 3/4 of my time was spent at 1824, like with that Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, sometimes even Sunday sometimes. So yeah, so I'd go practice a lot, and after 2 weeks I performed, and he was like, okay, yeah, you have some potential, keep practicing, and yeah, you have a job. So guys, I want to show you my nice and cute studio setup, home studio setup. This is me. These are my guitars. This is my nice cute little desk, but note it's a work in progress. There's a little more on that side, a keyboard and some decks. But yeah, welcome to my space. I'm actually going through some of the old footage of like my mixing when I started at 18. And actually, even this particular video I'm seeing right now is during that 2 week period where I'd been given time to figure these things out. So let's hear how cringe. I bet it sounds so cringe, but anyway, let's hear. This was day five out of the 2 weeks. So as you can see, I can already tell like I'm so nervous here and so focused and locked in, because usually if you see me right now, I'm usually jumping and screaming and like I'm really performing and having a good time. But you see me with such a serious face. As you can see, I'm even really focusing on where I'm counting the bars in. Okay, well, let's hear the transition. It's coming. It's coming. Okay. I think the cue point for the song that I said that was coming in was most definitely in the wrong place, because that could have been cleaner. That could have definitely been cleaner. But hey, this was day five. This was day five, and I think I'm doing so much better right now. And I think I'm even able to appreciate where I'm at right now, to imagine that this was where I was at a year ago, or just slightly over a year ago. In the beginning, when I started out, there's a friend of mine called Sende who, he had been DJing and whatnot. He was telling me, hey, how long do you think you want to stay here? And I told him, I think I want to be here for 6 months. And then after that, I want to progress, do more, do better. And for him, he was like, no, maybe you should think about it a bit longer. Maybe 9 months would be good, because, the thing with a residency, it gives you the frequency of playing really helps you sharpen your skills, if I can put it that way, because you're constantly required to play, even though sometimes it can be a bit repetitive. The repetition is what you need, kind of thing, most especially early on in your career. So I told him, nah, I think 6 months is good enough. And sure is the light of day. When we hit the 6th marker on April 1st, on April Fool's, funny thing, the manager called me and he was like, hi, Abby. Yeah, we don't think we'll be needing your services anymore. Should we need them? We'll definitely reach out. However, I will say that I saw it coming. But also the thing with this industry of ours, everything is usually so fragile. Like you can never be 100% sure about anything. Like most especially because most of our agreements don't usually even have contracts. It's just like a conversational agreement kind of thing. So anything can end at any point. So today I have my lovely friend Canada. I think for me, I struggled with getting close with people quickly, but
same.
it happened so easily with you.
Yeah, I think let me not get emotional, but I think the thing about Abby, because also for me, I'm sort of like her, where I'm not as friendly, or I don't open up so much. Like I'm friendly, but I don't. Oh my God, it's my life. This is who I am. No, I'm very reserved. But like for her, away from even just our connection with music, there was something else I saw in her as a friend. Even when we were just talking, like as I said, like we clicked it off. We don't remember when our friendship even started. It just happened so naturally. So I feel like our friendship kind of combined itself with like, okay, we're both women, we're in this industry together, but also I think just the zeal for everything that we have kind of just like bonded us together.
I agree.
Yeah.
I think for the longest, even one of the reasons why I admired Canada was in days of like 2021, 2022, like you couldn't think of a female who's like in the music space, like most especially in this side of like DJing and whatnot, and not think about Canada. Like she was in all of our faces. A girl was working hard. You know, every single international artist who was coming, Canada was always on the lineup. And now for me, I thought it was even better. Now once I did my research on it and then I discovered you also learn how to produce, I was like, wow, meant to be. This girl is literally living my dream. And I think even when now I had now slowly started working my way into the scene, I don't know if you remember, but most of the times even when we meet, I'd ask you a lot of questions about the space and how you're finding it and how it's taking you, how it's treating you, and you know, like I'd like really heed to your advice because I also knew you meant well at the end of the day, and it wasn't from a point of like trying to scare me or anything.
No, because I don't think I ever told you the truth. I was just be like, yeah, come, it's gonna be so much fun. We need so many other women. Oh my god, it's gonna be great. And then I didn't tell you like,
no, but you were also honest about sometimes about like some of the things you were
but
going
like not
through.
like very full until you
I
experience it.
get.
Because like if you start telling women
Can be
in the
scary.
industry, it can be very scary, and a lot of them will be like, yeah, that's not for me.
Yeah.
I can start off with, I'm very proud of you.
Okay.
Yeah. I'm
Tell
very
them.
proud of you.
Tell them.
I'm very proud of you of the things that you're doing, and I think I even saw it from before, and I'm so happy. And I know, no, you have to. And I know there's something happening.
I'm feeling
You're dropping a what?
I'm dropping an EP.
You know,
I'm saying it with low volume because now I'm saying it on camera and I have to commit to it. You know, that's the unfortunate bit.
She's dropping an EP. Yeah, I said it.
Yeah. And I'm working on a remix EP, guys. It feels very scary to share. I'm those people who don't like to talk about things. But here I am talking about something that I'm working on. May I prefer for people to just get shocked and surprised and like, wow, an EP has come out.
You know what I tell them like what it's about?
No, I do. I don't have a choice but not to do it. You know, now I've already gotten into it. So I want to work on remixes for songs from all sorts of genres and then, you know, flip them into something related. You know, I wanna do my whole blending of genres kind of thing. So yeah. So today we're at Snowball. Welcome to Snowball. I like the way I'm introducing you guys. Like, you know, this is what do they call it? MTV Cribs. Yes, this is my studio for the day. Welcome to Snowball. Snowball is intimidating to imagine. Like first of all, how crazy all this equipment just looks, and you know, so many big bodies of work have been recorded here. So yeah, I feel a bit nervous, but I'm good. It's easier for me to go the remix route versus releasing something 100% original because I've experienced previous success. Because you already like the song, you're more inclined to give my remix a chance in comparison to listening to something afresh. I feel the goal is eventually to work my way up to releasing a body of work that's like 100% my own. Slowly but surely work my way up. I'm hoping that this remix EP will be one step closer to a fully original body of work. It's still in the very early stages, and I'm still feeling a bit iffy about it. I think maybe that's also where the challenge is. I haven't done anything Quom related before, so I'm also still trying to figure out what Quom sounds when it's produced by Abby. I know what it sounds like when it's produced by Dala and the likes, but so trying to figure out what sounds like me. So the challenge is not only now the bit of understanding the genre, but also now trying to figure out the sweet spot. The reality is I'm usually really frustrated and really angry sometimes when things are not making sense. I'm like, man, I'm listening to it on my head, it's sounding like this and this should make sense. But when I'm playing it here, why is it not sounding the way it's sounding in my head? Right now, I'm just looking at I'm mixing the song, trying to ensure that frequencies are not colliding because we have a lot of frequencies within the higher end part of the song. So I'm just trying to make sure that they all gel in well. Yeah, that's what I'm working on right now.
they were discouraged, deterred, and dismissed, told it wasn't for them. But here they are anyway. Because no career has agenda. Thank you for watching this episode of Flip the Script. Be sure to subscribe and tune in to all 6 episodes. Leave a like and a comment below. And remember that the script is always yours to flip.
This episode was powered by CC Hub in partnership with Africa No Filter.